This is Leon Trammell, and welcome to the LT Ranch. We're back up on 40th Street and shows the headquarters of the LT Ranch, and this is an aerial view of the pond south of the main house. As we enter the LT Ranch, we cross an old bridge that was made in 1904 and was moved into this location about 20 years ago. And we moved it off the Whitewater River about 25 miles up. The gate was designed and built by my factory in Wichita, Kansas. And again, we moved this bridge in from another spot on the Whitewater River, and I moved it here. As we come up the lane, off to the right is the cultivated ground, and now we're up showing the compound of the houses. There's 3 houses here: the main house, the barns, and a guest house and a caretaker's house, and also a entertainment area that we call the Black Horse Inn. You see it here from this aerial view with the swimming pool out in front. That was originally a barn, and we converted it into an entertainment area. Then you see the Gambriel barn. That's a 2-story inside and a basement underneath, so that's beautiful for storage. Here you can see all the guest houses. The main house is on the left. On the foreground at 12 o'clock is a caretaker's house, and then the house next to the pool is a guest house, and the pool house, we call that the Black Horse Inn. That's full in entertainment. This pond was built by me. This pond is out in front of the main house. When I built this lake, the depth was 18 feet deep, but of course a lot of silt has moved in since then. And I made this dam that you see here twice the thickness of the regular dam because I wanted the water to be deep. We made the dam extra wide because we wanted to get rid of the dirt, so we made the pond extra wide, and then we pulled the rest of the dirt up and spread it on the pasture. Now this is a good view that shows an aerial view of the buildings. And again, when I moved out there was no buildings available. But I bought this first 180 acres that goes over to the river. At one time, we ran 400 head of cattle, not necessarily all on this part. We only had about 100 head on this part of the ranch, but we leased ground far away as 75 miles. Many years we run 400 head of Brangus cows. We had a cow and calf operation. The white pipe fence we built. There was nothing out here when I bought this in '85. So every building and every fence that you see was constructed after 1985. And off in the foreground there is the Whitewater River, which we joined. This section of the ground joins the Whitewater River on the west side for almost a mile. However, at the very northeast corner, it gets very narrow strip of land, but it's really good for trail riding and hunting and fishing. The Whitewater River, my grandson has caught catfish out of there that one weighed 52 pounds and the other weighed 53 pounds. And he caught and released. He caught them in the river that you see off, but put them in the pond in front of my house. So there's 2 catfish in there, one that weighs 52 pounds and one weighs 53. Now here we have it in soybeans, which is harvest, but in the background up there are all of the buildings. This little pond we made simply years ago. We used to run some cattle in there. I had planned that this shed here, long shed, that was stalled for 20 mares, and I was going to breed horses, but I realized it turned out to be a lot bigger job than I could afford the time to do, so I abandoned that idea. But the barn that you see square barn is stall for 7 horses, then a tack room. This was an old 2-story house, this gambrel, that I moved in and covered it up and made 2 stories inside. The building there behind the pool is, we call it the Black Horse Inn, and that's an entertainment area for visitors. The guest house is the one on the right. This is the main house with a black roof and the fountain out in front. The pond is a man-made pond, as you can see. This is the main house with a walkout basement showing the fountain on the lower level. This view again is an aerial view. This is the main house. The upper veranda looks out on the lake. There you go is the view. And everything, you see the road going across from south of the pond there, east to west, that's 40th Street. We have 610 acres over on the other side of that road, and there's no buildings on that property at all. But it's beautiful native blue stem grass, one of the largest pieces of native grass going west as you leave the Flint Hills. This is a guest house. It's a 3-bedroom, beautiful house, got a beautiful front and back porch and a 3-car garage. This house was a factory-made house by the Mennonites. It's 2x6 studs with 9-foot ceiling. I ordered the house without any roof or siding or either one of the front or back porch or the dormers or the garage. It was a 4-bedroom house. I made it into a 3. It is a wonderful, wonderful house, got a great view. The house was moved in 2 pieces, and I put it together, stuccoed it, put the garage on, put the dormers on, all of that. The house on the left is a house I built from a picture that I saw, a house. I had a builder that worked for me that he and I laid the house out and built it from a picture that I saw beside the road. It's a 3-story, 2 bedrooms up, 1 bedroom down. It's ideal for a caretaker. So that was the first caretaker's house. Then I thought I needed another one for other reasons. But the pool, where the pool house, that was originally a barn. And we've converted that into an entertainment area with a commercial kitchen. And this is the barn where the tack room and 3 stalls exist. The stalls are 12-foot stalls. And again, this was something that I wanted to do that never come to fruition. So you can do what you want with it. If you want to breed horses, I wound up just using it for machinery storage. And this is a training lot that I'd ride my horses on to break them, to ride, and all that good stuff. This is soybeans, and it is harvested and maintained by a sharecropper by the name of Varner Brothers. And they're an old family. And he rotates the grain in this. He will alter 3 different grains, corn, soybeans, and wheat. And I never tell him what to do. He just tells me what he's going to do, and I shake my head good. He'd be happy to continue that operation, or you can discontinue it within a year's notice. This is a Whitewater River that we have on the left is somebody else's, but it shows you how the river winds up. On the right is my ranch, and the river flows south. Now, this is the river where my grandson caught the 52-pound catfish and the 43-pound catfish and put them in the pond on the other side of my house of the headquarters. And you have pictures of deer and turkey all along this trail. We are at the north end of the property Our 188 acres is to the right of the Whitewater River. Here we are at headquarters, showing all the compound. And as we swing back, we're showing the main entrance to the compound. Here we're exiting the ranch, going across the old bridge, and in the foreground is Southwest 40th Street to Wanda. We're leaving headquarters to ride the trail along the Whitewater River. As we travel south along the driveway approaching headquarters, we'll go down to the bridge and we'll take a left. Now we're driving south. We're going to turn now 90 degrees east. And along the south side of the property, here we have the meadow in wheat. Our farmer changes from wheat to corn and soybean at his will and pleasure. This is a great trail that we have carved out over the 15 years, and you can actually drive a Jeep along this trail. So now we're driving east on the south side of the northeast corner of the property that joins the Whitewater River on the east. We join the Whitewater River for approximately 7/8 of a mile. Now it does not flow across our property, but we join it on the west side for almost 1 mile. Now we're riding rather fast down the trail to just show you the peaceful serenity of a piece of property 25 miles from the center of Wichita, Kansas. Now, as I say, we blazed this trail more than 15 years ago, and we made it wide enough that a vehicle can drive through there, but the main thing is to keep the stingweed down so it doesn't affect a horse's legs. A horses cannot take the stingweed, so that's why we keep it. Now the Whitewater River you see off to the right is my grandson Nolan. He fished for catfish out of the river, and as you can see, this trail is kept mowed by a brush hog to where it's up and down. We're going to be in and out of the woods along the Whitewater. Here is a deer feeder that we put corn in to feed the deer and the turkey, and you'll see a lot of turkey and deer pictures from on the ranch. This is an ideal approximately 1 mile for deer and turkey. Now we do not allow any hunting on the property. As you can see, we're going around the wheat field on our left, but the river is constantly off to our right. As we pull down, we try to go in and out of the woods as much as we can. So we're riding horseback in the shade or driving a four-wheeler. Now off to the right is where my grandson would fish for the big catfish. The biggest he caught was a 52 pound. The next biggest was 43 pound. He caught those on sun perch. And I said, well, sun perch is pretty small. He said, no, these sun perch were as big as my hand. He said, to catch a big fish, you gotta have big bait. But what I really enjoy about this north part of the ranch is this almost mile of trail ride along the Whitewater River. Now the Whitewater River can get up to as much as 6 feet here on this trail. Now it doesn't do it maybe once every 10 years, but it can get up to about 5 or 6 feet of where we're traveling today. It can get over a half a mile wide. That's the reason the Indians did not camp here. They camped over on the south side because this would flood out. Every few years, this river will get over a half a mile wide here. That's going to wash out any camp. where the Badger Creek, which is south side, is where the Indians camped. And I'll explain why I believe that that's where they hunted here. There's sign of them hunting here. But they didn't camp here because it'd get washed out. And it can flood here within 24 hours real easy. When you think right here, the water can be 5 or 6 foot deep where we're riding today on this trail. Now we go up here and go to a narrow, we got 3/8 of a mile of, see here's a Whitewater River off to our right. And we want to make sure you stay far enough away that the ground doesn't cave off under you and you wind up in there. So this is a very narrow strip that we join here. It's about 3/8 of a mile long. But as we go through this gate, that's the most narrowest part of this strip. We continue north up across this little sliver of ground between my next door neighbor and the river. This was part of the last 28 acres that I purchased. I bought it but for one reason, for trail ride. And it goes up and does I call it a cul-de-sac, do 180 degrees and return. But bear in mind, the Whitewater River is always off to the right. My next door neighbor is always off to the left, the green meadow over there. So it's a narrow strip of ground that included in the last 28 acres that I purchased to complete all of the purchase on the north side. Now this is the area here where my grandson caught the catfish, which you will see pictures of him holding them up down by the river's edge. And it was all in this area. And again, he caught them on goldfish. And I said, well, the goldfish is pretty small. And he said, no, these goldfish was as big as my hand. And he said, that's the area there that he fished all along. Now we come up here and we do 180 degrees around this tree. And I call this a cul-de-sac. Now that ground over there is the neighbors. So we go to the river and there's a post over there that's our line. So all the ground you see there is the neighbor. We're just almost on the west side of our property line. We do this U-turn here. I have to back up I'm on a bad boy buggy, which is a 4-wheel drive electric vehicle. Now we come back out and head back toward the headquarters down the same trail we came up before. We just drove up there about 3/8 of a mile and did 180 and come back. So we're traveling south on the trail on the north part of the LT Ranch. And as you can see, my trail's extremely wide for a number of reasons. I want to be able to ride a horse through there and not have a branch pull me off. So this is the area where my grandson caught, off to the left, caught the catfish. And we're coming back. The ground that you see off to the right is my neighbor's. We're still going south along the Whitewater River off to our left. And we're coming out of that narrow strip back out onto the LT Ranch, and we're driving south now, and we're driving along the west side of so the LT Ranch is across the left into the trees, and that's where the Whitewater River is running. Now we will turn north here along the north side of the LT Ranch. That's my ground on the left. That's the LT Ranch headquarters in the left. The ground on the right belongs to Burkamp, my neighbor. Although in the foreground you'll see green grass, that is the rest of the LT Ranch. But off to the right is not the LT Ranch. It belongs to Burkamp. Now we'll drive around this little water pole here and come back around. And again, the ground on the right is the neighbor's. But the wheat field on the left is the LT Ranch, and the Varner brothers farmed that, and that's at least a third or fourth generation of Varners in Butler County. The LT Ranch extends on to the west. We're driving west. At this, we go another quarter of a mile up over the hill. And that's all that property to the right is the north side of headquarters, where all the buildings are. Again, the Whitewater River is off in the trees to the left. And this is LT Ranch property on the right. We're coming up now to the very northeast side of the headquarters with the 3 houses and all of the barns. That pen that you see there north of the barn is a training pen where we train the horses to ride and do the things that we need to. The river's off to our left, and these are all the barns, etc. As you can see, I did never finish this 12 stall barn. I finally used it as a machinery shed. Now I've sold all the machinery. So the barn there, the little square barn, is 7 stalls, and the gambrel is 2-story old house. This is the Black Horse Inn where we entertain, and this is the main house to the right. And here we're leaving the 188 acres north of 40th Street, and we're traveling south. We'll be traveling across the old bridge that was made in 1905, and I moved it in off of the Whitewater River. So we're leaving now the LT Ranch north 188 acres approximately.